Have you ever said yes to an opportunity that you weren't sure about and it turned out to be like the most amazing thing ever? Maybe it taught you a new skill, uncovered a new passion that you had, introduced you to someone who later on opened you up to another new opportunity that you hadn't even considered before for your career. That is what we are going to be talking about today. I am joined by Rosanne Rust, a fellow registered dietitian. I'll be talking about her intro in a second, but we are going to be diving into just how you can open yourself up to different opportunities in your career and the value of trying different things, even when you're not sure about them, you're not sure if you're good at them, not sure if you're going to like them. And Rosanne is going to share how this has really helped her in her business and help her develop a career that she really loves as a dietitian. So let me introduce Rosanne. Rosanne is a credentialed registered dietitian and nutritionist and an Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics Media Excellence Award recipient. Owner of Rust Nutrition Services, she provides a variety of nutrition communication and advisory services to the food industry and science-based organizations, as well as freelance communications and media work via her Chew the Facts brand. As a writer, author, speaker, and content creator, her mission is to provide science-based nutrition information that helps people relax and enjoy eating for better health. Her content aims to help consumers turn confusion into clarity and mistrust into confidence. Rosanne has always promoted a fad-free, doable approach to healthy eating that helps people put food and nutrition into perspective so that they can set realistic health goals. She's particularly interested in agriculture, heart health, reducing food waste, and encouraging healthy eating behaviors. Words are her jam. To that end, she's published several consumer books, including Zero Waste Cooking for Dummies, the second edition of Dash Diet for Dummies, and she's actually working on the third edition right now, and 50 plus protein packed, fiber rich recipes for living well on weight loss medications. You can find her on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at Chew the Facts, or you can visit her website at rustnutrition.com. All right, let's get into the episode. Hi, Rosanne. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you here.
Hello, nice to be here.
Yeah. So I'm so excited to chat because we got to know each other very quickly. We first got introduced because we're co-authoring or we're working on this book together. You know everything about writing books. We're going to get into that. You've definitely worked
Everything.
on you more than me. This is my first rodeo. But it's just so wonderful that we've gotten to know each other and now you can come on the podcast. But it all started from working on this book that we're working on different chapters in. But yeah, you've had a varied career, and that's kind of the topic of today's conversation is just for dietitians or practitioners out there to maybe open their eyes a little bit to all of the different things that you can pursue and be open to pursuing. And so let's start there with, why do you feel that it is important to work in a variety of settings early in your career?
Yeah, I think that when you first start out, you might have a particular idea of what you're doing, or in some cases, the economy is going to influence what you do.
Yeah.
Take any job that you can get.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we often have an idea of what we like or what we don't like when we get out of school and training and your internship, and we might gravitate toward that. As I told my children, I have 3 sons who aren't in this field, but I told them early in their teens, you are probably not going to love your job the first 10 years, or don't expect to, because it takes time. You don't just start making money or start loving being
Yeah.
passionate about your career right away. Maybe some people do, but that's, I don't think, typical.
Mm-hmm.
I like that 10 years seems like a long time, but in the span of your career and your life, it really isn't.
Yeah.
And I think the more that you try, the more you will uncover the skills you have or don't have. And sometimes it's surprising. Something that you think, I'm not going to like this. I don't really want to do this, but you end up, doing it for some reason. And then you
Mm-hmm.
might learn something about yourself you didn't know, or learn something about that particular aspect of work that you had a different perception
Yeah.
of before.
Yeah, it's this little treasure hunt because you don't know exactly where you're going, but each step you're uncovering new things about yourself
Right.
and about your interests. But you
Yeah.
really need to
And
trust the process.
you do. And even if you look at it like a 5 to 10 year period, because I think as dietitians, we all can do so many different things. There are so many different opportunities from food service to very clinical and everything in between. I work in communications now, which I didn't think I was ever going to do in the first 10
That was
years of my
not talked
career. That's
about in
what I was
school
thinking.
either. Yeah.
And my first 10 years, it was very different. The communications world and the media world was very different. So things
Yeah.
evolve in ways you don't know how they're going to evolve. We have AI is taking over our lives now, so we really have no prediction of 10 to 20 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take those first 5 to 10 years and get a variety of experiences, it just makes you a better dietitian, in my opinion. Even if you think, I don't want to be a clinical dietitian, for instance,
Yeah.
if you at least get a year or two of some kind of, not just your couple of months in internship, but like real hands-on experience, it teaches you so much about the entire healthcare system, for instance. It teaches you about what other health professionals do or don't do.
Mm.
And I just think then as you go down another path, you bring that knowledge with you. And I think it's important.
Yeah.
Even if I'm not working with patients now, I'm not counseling, I'm not in a clinical setting, but I have all of that background. And I think it just makes me a better writer,
Mm.
more empathetic about the healthcare system, which everyone is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also something that you mentioned that was really interesting too is, for example, going into the clinical setting and being open to being curious and learning about all aspects of the healthcare system in the hospital that you're working in, and not just, okay, I'm going and being a clinical dietitian, I'm going up on the
Mm-hmm.
ICU floor and ordering TPNs and all of that. And that's great. But get curious about, how does the food service department run? How is procurement run?
Mm-hmm.
What are the other interactions with the other health providers, and how does
Right.
insurance work, and all of this kind of stuff
Yeah.
it's such a rich learning opportunity if you embrace that.
Yes. And that's all part of the delivery of nutrition. And there's outpatient settings in healthcare systems as well. And you're not going to be an expert. I'm not a renal dietitian. I really didn't do much nutrition support, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware of something. I have some background. I know, and I'll know who to refer to. And I have an idea of how that whole system works. I
Mm-hmm.
had a great opportunity early in my career. I only worked 3 years in a hospital setting, about 10 to 15 in clinical, some sort of clinical, across the clinical spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
But we had a burn unit, and that is an experience. I just think it shows you a lot about the power of nutrition, and
Mm.
that it helps you understand why we want to fight for policy, for instance, to make sure people can see a registered dietitian, that our skills are utilized, and people within the healthcare team and the community are aware of them.
Yeah. Yeah. That
Still
real
the
world
fight.
experience. Yeah. Yeah. It's ongoing and it's getting harder, but having that real world experience makes you also, yeah, if you're advocating on Capitol Hill and talking to legislators and being able to pull in those real experiences, just as an example, makes you so much more powerful. Or when you have a, a writing job and you're say, oh yeah, I know about that because I have some experience in that too. It just makes you so much more interesting and valuable
Yeah. Yeah,
in
and it
whatever
gives you more
setting.
perspective to bring to the piece. Or if you're working as a communicator or you're educating people on social media, but you've never worked in a clinical setting and worked with physicians and other health professionals, I don't know how you can't just read the book and
Yeah.
and deliver the information and understand what people are going through, because they are getting diagnosed with diabetes or other diseases. So you have to have some perspective to bring.
Yeah. Yeah. And really being inside of those lived experiences of people and yourself and of the medical team, or if you're working in a community setting. I guess one other thing that I wanted to get your perspective on is that you don't necessarily need to get paid for these experiences. Like they could be just small things. If you're working in the clinical setting, for example, and you just want to shadow someone or go and learn a little bit more about something, like it, I think also it doesn't have to be a big thing. That was the wonderful thing about our internships, was just you got to
Right.
try so many different things. And when I was I was in DC for about 10 years, and every year, like they had enrollment time for SNAP benefits. And so I would go and volunteer to sign up people. And even just doing that as on a volunteer
Yes.
basis for a little bit, like I wasn't a community dietitian, I was working in food service. So it had nothing to do
Yeah.
with my paid role, but those experiences are easy to get. You're giving back, and then you are just gaining more of that perspective. Man, this is really challenging for folks.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. Volunteering, because at all of those nutrition touch points in your community just gives you put yourself in someone's shoes so that you
Yeah.
understand all the loopholes they have to jump through, and or the lack of access that they have. And I did a lot of that too. As I raised my children, I did a lot of volunteering at the schools. If you want to talk about school lunch, go see school lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Or go see what kids are packing, and see what
Right.
their parents are packing that goes in the garbage.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
and then again, then that brings that perspective to everything else you do, and you have just a better understanding. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it absolutely can be a volunteer kind of thing, a community project
Mm-hmm.
where you go in and help a local group or
Yeah.
organization, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. You worked in clinical, it sounds, for quite a long time, clinical setting, and then other like clinically adjacent things for a while.
Yes.
And then you've told me separately that you pushed the food and cooking aspects of dietetics aside early in your career. You said,
Yeah.
I'm not going to focus on those, to
No.
focus more on the science. You focused on the medical nutrition therapy and medicine and all of that. So how have your thoughts changed about that?
Yeah, when I look back, it's interesting that when I got out of school and my internship, I don't know, and part of that stemmed from the hospital setting and the lack of understanding of what the clinical dietitian did and who they were.
Uh-huh.
And we were always associated with the kitchen because we literally
Yes.
had our offices in the kitchen.
You
So we
come
had
in
to
and they're
walk
like,
back to
I'm
the
ready with my
kitchen
lunch order.
every
That's not what
day.
I'm here
And
for.
I think that was part of the reason that I'm not the food person. I am this clinical person. I have
Mm-hmm.
nutrition, science, and biochemistry to bring to you. And for that reason, I didn't want anything to do with food. I wasn't going to write about food or do recipes or meal planning. I didn't want to do any of that. And then as my career evolved, lots of years in between, like the other types of clinical experiences I had, I worked for Head Start. I worked in long-term care, neither of which I thought I would ever want to do, but I just
Yeah.
decided to try it and gained something from it. And then where was the turning point with food? I guess probably when I was proposed to help write a book, and it was had to do a lot with food. And then I started to realize how much food means to my life, like from birth. My whole world was food. And I love to entertain, and I actually do enjoy cooking, and I enjoy the entertaining more than the cooking, really. But I realized this is really like a big part of who I am. Food is,
Mm.
it's okay to embrace the food. That was just my turning point, and I realized that was who food food has been such a big part of my life. Celebrations. My grandmother cooked, baked. I even resisted learning from them
Hmm.
during that time as a dietitian because I just didn't want to. I can be my mother. I don't know. But
Huh.
now, as I grew, I realized this is really who I am,
Yeah.
and food means a lot to me. I've passed it on to my kids just because it was part of our lives, and it
Yeah.
became a very important part of their lives. So that was a turnaround. Sometimes
Yeah.
you push back for reasons you may not even understand, and then you figure out
Mm-hmm.
who
Well,
you
I
are,
mean,
where you came from.
yeah, it comes full circle a little bit. I actually had a similar experience. I also, though, came into dietetics with a disordered eating. That was my push to get into nutrition. And so I viewed food as I had a complicated relationship with food and didn't really necessarily derive joy from it and saw it as just a very practical thing. But I think as we're in school and we're learning the science, it's about the science. It's not about the food. The chefs go and play with food
Right.
and it doesn't have the same draw and
Authority almost.
exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And but then as I have moved into adulthood and healed my relationship with food and body image and just all of that, I now love food. I love cooking. But I actually, my first career in dietetics was in food service. It was school food service. And,
Yeah.
but even there, it's hard to be able to develop like a deep passion for food because there are so many regulations. There's so many constraints on what you can do and all of that. It felt like it had to be very like institutional, even though that's exactly what we want school food to not be. I do wonder though, if I had had my love of food back then, if that would have changed a little bit and helped me maybe be a little bit more creative with my menu writing and
Yeah. You had constraints, you know,
yeah,
that you have to work with. But yeah, and as you're talking about that experience, I'm thinking that during my internship, I loved all the food parts. I loved the big
yeah,
Hobart mixer. I loved helping those people. I loved
yeah.
working with them. It was fun. I was very comfortable with it
I loved food
because I
service.
grew
Yeah.
up in a household where the kitchen was always doing things. My
Mm,
mom, I learned a lot from my mom, and it's very common in our profession that many dietitians come to the profession with some kind of disordered eating. And I was just
yeah.
really lucky to be brought up in a household with none of that and
Mm,
no dieting, no talk of fat or weight loss or anything. We just ate all the cookies and baked all
yeah.
the stuff, and there was no food fear.
Mm-hmm.
My clinical part of my interest in clinical nutrition came from I had GI issues as a teenager, and I was
Mm.
diagnosed with Crohn's at age 20.
Oh,
So I have
wow.
mild Crohn's colitis. So that was
Okay.
my sister-in-law actually said, maybe you should look into dietetics. What's that? Because I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was a freshman.
Yeah,
So I did
that's
because I had
okay.
already, my mother was very progressive and this was in the 80s. No one knew anything about digestive disorders and certainly
Mhm.
not diet and digestive disorders. But
Mhm.
she was very creative. She read a lot. She managed my meal plan so I would feel better. So I had
Wow.
pain associated with food for a long time
Yeah.
and then became in tune with my body because of that. So yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting how everyone has their own story of how I was actually reading, I think it was a Substack or something, and the question was posed, what inspired you to get into dietetics? And
Yeah.
some of it just brings tears to your eyes because just people come from so many different passions. They were inspired by their aunt who was a dietitian, or they had
Right.
worked with a dietitian who helped them and then they wanted to become a dietitian. And but what brings us into the profession is not necessarily where we end up going and being, which is the theme of this
Right.
conversation. It's
Yeah.
just, but that I think is what is so wonderful about it too, is that we are exposed to so many different things in our schooling, and we do technically come out of our internship being qualified to do a
Do a lot of
lot
different
of
things.
different
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. And
And
that's where
yeah,
that experimenting comes in because I don't at age 22 or 23, you don't know what all of your skill sets are. You know,
no, that's
you
true.
just don't until you try to apply them,
Yeah.
and they may not have anything to do with whatever your profession is, dietetics or
Mm-hmm.
food or nutrition. They may be
Yeah.
writing, they may be those kinds of skills.
Yeah.
So I think you have to do a lot of different things to figure that out.
Yeah. And I
no
think
matter the
that's
profession, really.
right. I agree. And I think that that also helps dietitians. I remember when I was, yeah, my food service days, I just wanted to see more dietitians in places of power and leadership and authority. And
Mm-hmm.
I think though with that comes developing those skills, those
Mm-hmm.
other skills. You can know the science, you can know how to counsel people, you can be an expert in what you went to school for, but it's all these other skills, being able to communicate
Mm-hmm.
effectively, write, lead, manage, all of that is
Yeah,
what allows you to not just get higher for your own sake, but to elevate the profession and to do good in the world. Like our hearts are in the right
absolutely.
place. I would love to
Yeah,
see more
yeah,
dietitian CEOs.
yeah. That's why we're all here, is we want to help people
Yeah.
live better lives. And
Yeah. I think what's really amazing how you get to do it is that through your communication, you can impact and reach and educate and support so many different people. And I would love to, we've touched on this a little bit, but how has your experience and your varied experiences helped you communicate with different types of clients and audiences?
again, it goes back to embracing every opportunity and finding opportunities where you're speaking to peers or colleagues and honing those skills, and going into the community and speaking to children. And then you find that you need a different voice. You maintain your integrity and your own authenticity, but those voices are different. So I think one piece of advice is to do things that scare you.
Mm,
I do some public speaking every year, and I do webinars, and I speak professionally sometimes. And I think back to how nervous I was in grad school, in college,
hmm
in my first job. But I always pushed myself in that arena.
hmm
Obviously, I work in communications now, so I'm very passionate about it.
Yeah.
In my family, people need to talk, communicate.
Yeah.
And, but it doesn't always come easy, even when you see
Yeah.
someone effectively communicate on a stage. It takes practice and it
Yeah.
takes a lot of repetition. So for some reason, I guess early on, I realized I need to just do this, even though it scares me. I have to get to a point where I can talk in front of a group and not be like choking because my mouth is so dry and my
hmm
body is.
hmm
I think communicating effectively is doing it, whether it's writing, speaking. You just have to keep doing it. And you're not
hmm
going to be good at it at first. You might be. I'm a fairly natural writer. Writing has always come more easy to me,
hmm
but you're always going to get better. You're
Yeah.
going to be a better you 10 years down the road. That's the goal for
hmm
humanity, that we get a little better, that we evolve a little. When I was working in a clinical setting, I volunteered to give a nutrition talk to the medical
hmm
staff. I volunteered to help with a management course, just to meet other people, different kinds of people, not necessarily the people I was working with every day, and learn from them and use it as an opportunity to practice.
Yeah.
Those community settings, same thing. It's okay, I'll do an after school thing. And
hmm
then I wasn't getting paid. It was a volunteer thing, but then you still have to make an outline. You have to figure out what you're doing, what you're going to say, what your key points are. They're only third graders, but hey, let's practice on them and
Let's show
make it
up.
effective. Yeah.
Yeah.
And make sure they have fun and learn.
Yeah.
I think it's just embracing any opportunity. And
hmm
if you want to do something, you got to do it. If you want to become a writer, you have to write. If you want to, you don't just write a book like tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's that practice, continual practice. And yeah, you don't come out of the womb fully formed
Yeah.
writer,
Yeah.
speaker, whatever. And I think sometimes with social media these days, because we can see like the best version of whatever a person is doing, we just think that they were always like that and that we need to be like that.
No, I had a lot of bad speaking engagements.
That
And
luckily
I
were never
think
recorded, probably.
not back then. Although some of them were. And I think we had mentioned together offline about the perfectionism in our profession.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, we tend to be personality types. I'm not really a type A person, but I do like things to be a certain way. And we're very critical of ourselves.
hmm
So it's often that one thing I didn't do or I forgot to say, and I fixate on that instead of the whole thing, which was okay.
Right.
Sometimes it's just okay. Sometimes it's great. I'm not a great speaker. I'm okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm better than I was 15, 20 years ago, I
Exactly.
think.
There's so many of the things, even like when you go to the doctor and you check your blood pressure, like you're comparing it to like whatever the standard is, but it's also what is your level and like how are you relating to where you were before and where you want to go and how is your progress and comparing
Yeah.
yourself to yourself versus anyone else. And yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, you're never, if you are so focused on that you need to hit it out of the ballpark every single time and it keeps you from ever starting, there is no chance that you are ever going to get to that point because you never
Right.
did it. You just,
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
all
yeah.
it's a good reminder.
Yeah. And sometimes we're not good at things. And
That's fair
if
too.
it's really difficult and painful to do, then, then maybe don't do it.
Yeah.
We should do what we're comfortable enough with and feel confident and competent enough.
Yeah.
But sometimes we maybe don't do the thing,
Yeah.
or we make sure we seek advice from others,
Yeah.
and get input,
Yeah, some
and
things
we'll
are
keep
going to
working on
take a
it.
little bit more of an investment of learning and maybe
Hmm.
outside education and guidance and all of that if it's something that is really important to you that you really want to do. But yeah, I appreciate you bringing up that point too, that it doesn't mean that every uncomfortable thing needs to be a thing that you need to keep trying. If it turns out
Right.
it's just maybe not a thing for you,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
And if it's a skill that you have honed or that comes more natural to you, it's easier. So
Hmm.
do the easier things that are effective instead of struggling all of the time, I'd say.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's that's a good point. So, as a freelancer now and working for yourself and being an entrepreneur, what was your focus when you were starting out? Has it changed over time? What were some of your first gigs?
Oh, yeah. Yes, it has changed because my first gig when I moved out of a city to a small town and was starting over my career and I was having my first baby, so I was in a different place. What am I going to do? What kind
Yeah.
of work do I really want to do now? And I'd always wanted to write. I had a professor mentor in college and grad school who wrote for the Pittsburgh paper, had a column every week. And I thought that might be something I could do in this little
Yeah.
small town paper. So my first gig was writing for the newspaper, the Meadville Tribune in Meadville, Pennsylvania, a little tiny paper that, like all tiny papers, are struggling
Mhm.
now. But so this was in the late 90s when there were newspapers,
Yep. Yep.
like a lot more newspapers. And there was, I know it's hard to believe, kids, but very little internet. The internet was just starting.
Yeah.
And so I saw a lot of evolution with the advent of computers, home computers, the internet, then email, and then social media. So by 2000, so I started writing for the paper, and then I started pursuing other freelance writing kind of job. I hate that word freelance. We don't do it for free, but sometimes you do.
Yeah.
And actually, I practically did it for free for the newspaper because it was a small paper, but
Mhm.
the exchange was exposure to the community and free marketing for whatever I might pursue down the road,
Mhm.
and practice. Every
Yes.
week I wrote something, and that was a lot of writing. And I did it for 20 years,
Wow.
weekly column for 20 years. And you never run out of anything to talk about with food nutrition. And sometimes you repeat the themes in a different way because that's how
Mhm.
nutrition and behavior works.
Yeah.
And then 2007, I started working in social media. So I had a Twitter account in 2007. It was like the
Mhm.
beginning of social media being used as a way to communicate and respond. And I ended up getting into the world of misinformation and controversial nutrition topics
Mm.
early, like sugar, high fructose corn syrup,
GMO, maybe.
GMOs, and
Yeah.
agriculture, and deciphering all of
Colors.
that
Yeah.
information.
Mhm.
Yeah. So in that time, you would get hired to respond to community blogs and articles with the comment section, or
Mm-hmm.
live tweet at a conference and that kind of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
that kind of communication began on the mid 2000s to 20 aughts.
Mm-hmm.
And then look where we are now. We're making videos, and I say about 2010, I saw YouTube was becoming a popular way to communicate
Mm-hmm.
about science and nutrition. And I said, I am never doing videos. I hate it. I hate doing it. I hated the technology of it.
Uh-huh.
It was so much work and
It's a
pieces, and
lot.
I did not like it. I did a few, and my colleague Melissa Joy Dobbins, who's a great communicator, said maybe smile a little. I was so serious. I'm like, I'm going to teach you about this, and they were terrible,
Oh no.
terrible, so bad, because I was afraid to let any of myself, and I'm
Mm.
goofy and fun in real
Yeah, you
life,
are. Right.
but I was like, no, I'm going to tell you about your blood pressure. And they were terrible. And it was very clunky. And then now I love it. And I love the editing process. That's my
Yeah.
favorite part. I love the whole production. So I could have been a TV producer. It's awesome. I love piecing all this together.
Mm-hmm.
But because it got easier, because you have a phone and you can
Yeah.
just do it all right here. And that's not what it was in 2010. You
Yeah.
had multiple devices and you had to download them back to your computer, and it was very
Yeah.
clunky.
Yeah.
Communications and media has
Mm-hmm.
changed immensely.
Mm-hmm.
In the 90s, there was newspapers and television. You
Yeah.
were either,
Radio,
and
right?
I lived in a small
Yeah.
town, so I always wanted to be a spokesperson for the Academy of Nutrition, but I never lived in a city. And then back in the day, you had
Oh,
to live in a city because
okay.
you had to be, and
Able to
that's
go to
changed
things.
because
Yeah.
now we have multiple media like this,
Mm-hmm.
and you can live anywhere and just be a subject expert. But yeah, so it's changed a lot.
Yeah.
And what hasn't changed is pricing yourself in a way that shows your value. That's just a constant struggle for some reason for dietitians, not just dietitians, I think freelancers in general. Ask what you're worth. In the
Yeah.
beginning, when you're just new at doing it, then, maybe you aren't as skilled, or you're just trying to gain that experience.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's worth doing something for free or next to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
After a while, it's not.
Right.
And you have to talk to other colleagues, find out what they're charging for different things,
Mm.
consider the whole package. It's not just a 60-minute
Right.
webinar, it's hours of preparation, or it's not just a 300-word blog, it's
Mm-hmm.
researching and citing all of the science and whatnot.
And all the
So,
years of experience that you're bringing to it as well, that if they were to hire a grad student or an undergrad to write it,
right.
wouldn't have that same experience. So,
Yes, and experience matters, and your unique skill set matters. We all bring different skill sets. We might have the same credential, but we all have slightly different skill sets, different perspectives.
yeah.
Yeah, and that matters. That's something you should have to place a value on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so, how did you get into writing your first book or contributing to your first book?
So, my first book, I was approached by a colleague, and this goes back to our first question of that first 10 years or so. The more experiences you allow yourself to have and the variety of settings you poke into, the more
Mm-hmm.
people you meet
Mm.
and the more potential connections you have. You're
Mm-hmm.
growing a network those
Yeah.
first 10 years. So my entire career was very much, I just am in the woods taking a walk, and I go down whatever path presents itself to
Mm.
me. And I had a colleague, I worked for an online weight management platform. She developed and managed this online platform in the early 2000s. She was ahead of her time,
Yeah.
and it didn't make it. She tried for over a decade, but it was
Wow.
before people could grasp it. Now, where we are now, there's all kinds of apps and everything.
Yeah.
But it was an excellent program, and I was hired by her because I was already I was teaching online for Penn State. So I had a sense, one of the reasons I was hired was because I had lots of writing experience, and I already understood online platforms.
Mm-hmm.
So this was also around 2005 to 2008 that I started working with her. And she had already written a For Dummies book with Wiley, John Wiley and Sons.
Mm-hmm.
And the story is that she got pregnant with triplets and couldn't finish a book by herself. They gave her another new project. She had already written one book. They gave her a new project. She couldn't do it right now. So she already knew me. We were working together. We had a relationship. Do you want to do it? My name will still be on it, but you're going to do most of the work. And I said, sure, because then I got that opportunity. She gave me her agent. It's hard to find get connected to a literary agent, and you need one usually to write a book. Mm-hmm. And I did that work, again, not for a lot of money, but that was the door that opened.
Right.
And then they asked me to write another book and another book. So that's
now, before
how
you know, you're
about.
A published author.
Yeah. So there was, that was, let's see, essentially, I was like within the first 15 years of my career. So the 10 to 15, those years, I made a lot of connections in multiple settings because I decided to become a consultant. So I'm doing 5 different jobs. I was working in long-term care. I was working online for Penn State. I was doing weight management online, and they all connected. I got the Penn State job because I was working in long-term care, and they wanted some clinical experience. And if I didn't have the clinical experience, then I wouldn't have been able to get hired. Yeah.
Man. Yeah.
So it was a lot.
Yeah.
At one point, my son was in about 2nd or 3rd grade, and he said, "Mom, you have 7 jobs." And then he listed them all. He was a little kid, and he recognized, and the last one, "And you're a mom." And he, because I was writing for the paper, I was teaching online, I was counseling online, I was working alone. It was all hours, and I was doing all of those so I could have flexibility with my kids. That was my goal. Because some of the things I could do at night. It was back when my brain still worked from 7 to midnight.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that it's back in the day, it was like, what does your dad do? What does your mom do? And it's one thing. But now I think more and more, it's just, you can do so many different things. Yes, you can be a dietitian, but what you do is so varied. And I think what is really important is showing the next generation of dietitians all of the different things that you can do. Because I know for me, I didn't really know what you could do, or it was always just community, clinical, and food service, and that was it.
Yeah. And I think it's really about embracing every opportunity, even the ones that you don't think are totally your vibe, because you just have no idea how things are going to change, and they are going to change. And that thing that you thought, I didn't want to work in long-term care, but I took the job because it was only 10 or 12 hours a week, and I could literally go in any time of the day or night. So that worked for me. That was the reason I took it. But then I learned things, and I enjoyed it, and I felt like I had an impact, and I learned about geriatric nutrition, which is important then when your parents get old, So it's all good.
Yeah.
And you just have no idea what is down the road. A thought that just came to mind, that was the one son made the comment about all the jobs, and the other son at one point when he was little said, "Mom, I want to do what you do when I grow up. I want to stay home."
And, don't we all?
Yeah, don't we all? I've telecommuted for 25 years.
Yeah.
I've worked from home via email, virtually. When 2020 came and everyone was like, "We have to switch to Zoom." Yeah. I'm like, I've been doing this for 20 years.
Welcome.
Nothing has changed in my life. But the funny thing is that the kid that said that to me when is 23 now, and he's working from home today. Oh. Because he's a geologist, but sometimes he can do a work from home day when he has office work, which in 20 years ago, nobody did that.
No.
You always had to go to the office.
Yeah, there's nothing to do at home. You couldn't talk to anyone.
Now people have opportunities. They're hybrid. They're solely working from home. So maybe you can work. Maybe you can stay home. But you just have no idea what is going to present itself and what you're going to get more passionate about as your career evolves, as you evolve.
Yeah. And I
So
think,
yeah,
yeah, try a
try
lot of different
try
things.
new things, even if you think they're not exactly what you want. That's
Yeah. Or even if you maybe think you're not like an expert yet in them too. Someone may see something in you and may really just like how you write or whatever. And I think having this idea too, this is something that I've come to in my career over and over is I can figure it out. Like, even though because the
yes.
internet these days, like, and your network, that,
Hmm.
okay, if someone came, say I was you and I had to write an article about, yeah, pre-diabetes in children, and I really
Hmm.
didn't know anything about it, I could probably find someone to talk to. I could do the research. Like,
Absolutely.
you can figure these things out too. And so it's about taking that leap of faith too before necessarily you feel like you're 100% ready. And you probably have actually a lot more expertise. You know where to do the research. You know how to discern what something is reputable versus not. Like, you can
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yes. I mean, yeah, we sometimes undervalue ourselves that way, but you absolutely can do it. You can
Mm-hmm.
jump in. No one expects you to know everything
Yeah.
on day one. And yeah, and that's when you find out you really do know a lot more than you think that.
It's really empowering. Right. And then it
Mhm.
helps you actually feel more empowered to go after the next thing, proactively. And I think a lot of our listeners are entrepreneurs and business owners. And I think this also goes to any kinds of activities you're doing to either pursue maybe a contract or a new revenue stream, or also just like marketing opportunities and doing a speaking event and a thing where it may feel like, I'm not sure that this is going to be like such a great thing. Like, maybe there's an expo happening in your town and it's going to be a lot of work to set up a table and get there, and you're not really sure and you've never done it before. But it could be a really great opportunity. You could meet some really great people, and you don't know what it will open up for you. It may give you things that you weren't even expecting. So
Yes.
I think this goes
Yeah.
for all
Or you might
aspects.
hate it. And then okay, I don't want to do that. So
Yeah.
you have to do things to also learn what you don't want to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. Yes. And you have your blog too, Chew the Facts blog. Has that helped you in your career too, as you like pursue other opportunities, or have people found you for opportunities from that? Or like, how has your blog been a part of your work?
It has, because it's mine, and it's a place where I can voice my opinions. I can do some opinion pieces there. I can share information. It showcases my writing style and the types of topics that I enjoy
Yeah.
learning about, talking about, writing about. So,
Hmm.
yeah, it's definitely helped. And we didn't really talk about niches. I think sometimes they're good and they work for people, and sometimes it's okay to not have one, to
Hmm.
be cornered into one thing.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of time. And I'm still developing what am I doing here? What is and your
Yeah.
mission might change.
Hmm.
And it takes a lot of thought to really think about what your core mission or messages are,
Right.
and
Yeah.
what you want to accomplish.
Yeah. And you can't know what your big mission is earlier in your career, or, oh, this is what I'm going to feel and believe for the next 20, 30 years. So I definitely think, yeah, permission
Yeah.
to put something out there. And then once you've learned some other stuff and you're like, ooh, that was actually not really that great of a perspective, I think I'm going to update that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, and that's absolutely sometimes that happens. I think essentially, and Chew the Facts came about because I wanted to clear up misinformation, and that
Yeah.
was when there was just a little bit of it, and now it's just
Right.
exploded into a mountain of misinformation.
Yeah.
But my core, getting back to our earlier story, it's the joy of food. So I want people to bring joy to the table and not feel guilty, but also learn how their diet plays a role in their health
Hmm.
with the facts on the
Hmm.
side.
Yeah. It's like delivering that
Yeah,
background and that
yeah,
information, but in a way that's
yeah.
more
And that has,
approachable.
right,
Yeah.
and relatable. And when I wrote that newspaper column for so many years, I did get a lot of feedback, so that was helpful. And
Hmm.
the core message was always people felt better after reading my column because I didn't make them feel guilty or should them to death. You should be eating and should be eating. They realized it's okay to have chicken wings or cookies once in a while or whatever
Right.
their favorite thing is, and
Yeah.
how to work around that and balance their plate
Mm-hmm.
without feeling shamed or guilty about anything. So
Yeah.
that's always been my
Guiding
voice.
star a little bit. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
important. Yes. We don't want to be called the food police.
No.
Well, final little question for you. If you could sum up thinking about your own growth journey here on the Growth Show, what would you say is one of your biggest turning points or your biggest turning point?
Turning point. I think it's not really a turning point. My biggest message is really that embracing every opportunity. I think that embracing opportunities that you don't think are for you is sometimes where you learn the most. Whether it's that I don't want to do that, or wow, I have this whole skill set that I didn't know was under there.
Yep.
So I think you gain from every opportunity, whether it's good news or bad news.
Yeah.
Say yes to those opportunities. Even
Mm-hmm.
if you think you're not qualified, you won't like it, just embrace the opportunity.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, my turning point was saying yes to opportunities I didn't think were for me, and they led me to all the things that I love doing now.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. It's just so inspiring. So thank you for sharing all of this, Rosanne. Like, this has been such a wonderful
Yeah, so
conversation.
much for a half an hour.
I know. Sorry. I was like, well, we're having such a
I'm not
good
always
time. Let's
concise.
keep going. No. This has been wonderful. So any final thoughts or highlights or news and events that you want to share with listeners?
Oh, I have lots of deadlines right now. We just published this fall a cookbook, the GLP-1 Kitchen, that I co-authored
Mm.
with my colleague Liz Weiss and Sunoy Escobar. I was the editor on that project.
Oh,
Again, uncovering more skill sets, and the
yeah.
book is out. It's available on Amazon, the GLP-1 Kitchen.
Wonderful.
And I am currently working on the third edition of Dash Diet for Dummies with my two co-authors, Dr. Sarah Saman and Cindy Kleckner, culinary
Great.
dietitian. So
Wonderful.
that's what's going on.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah, in addition to all the other freelance writing and whatnot. But
Yeah. Yeah.
that's my
People
winter
should.
project.
Yeah, I know you've got a lot of deadlines on your plate.
Yeah.
So good luck, but it's a good time of year to be inside writing, keeping cozy and all of that. Yeah. So, well, thank you again so much for being here and sharing all of your really great advice and experience with everyone. It's been
Thank
wonderful.
you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of The Growth Show. And a big thanks to my guest, Rosanne, for a wonderful, inspiring conversation about all the different ways that our careers as dietitians can evolve as long as we stay open to the new opportunities in front of us. I hope this episode inspired you as well. Feel free to connect with Rosanne using all of the links in the show notes. Go to her website, read her blog, read her books, share her books with your clients and patients. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you give us a review, give us a rating, and share it with a colleague who may also find it inspiring and helpful as they continue to pursue their career and business in dietetics. All right. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.